Hello, all you honorable thieves out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast in the galaxy. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Hello, Galaxy.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 6, Episode 15, I think. Honor Among Thieves. Alternate title, Miles Underground.
Okay. Now that's clever. Okay.
It makes you think.
Really makes you think, doesn't it?
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek DS9, but we're not going to dance around spoilers for other stuff, so don't even whine about it. We don't care. We've spoiled every single thing that we can think of. Let's see. What's a good spoiler? I don't
know. Kevin Spacey is a predator. Wait, that's like a real life spoiler.
Real life spoiler. We need to spoil real life more often.
Yep.
Honor Among Thieves originally aired February 25th, 1998. It was written by Renee Echevarria, story by Philip Kim, and directed by Alan Eastman. I don't think we've heard of Alan Eastman before, have we? Or Philip Kim.
Yeah, let's see. I don't think Philip Kim. He apparently picked a couple of stories that ended up on Deep Space Nine, and this is the first of the two. Between 2004 and 2007, he worked as a production assistant and lighting assistant on the fan-made internet series Star Trek: The New Voyages, rather. So nothing terribly. I'm gonna go to his IMDb to see if he did anything else interesting. The answer is no. He did those two things.
All right.
Alan Eastman, on the other hand, Canadian television director and producer, directed this one episode of Deep Space Nine and 2 episodes of Voyager, and directed and executive produced many TV series, including Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, Sliders, Poltergeist: The Legacy, and Nightman.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, a lot of 90s going on in that list.
I guess so.
90s sci-fi. I've never seen Andromeda.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things nobody even talks about.
Yeah, I never watched it, so...
Not even to say it's bad, so I don't know. A lot of people don't like Kevin Sorbo these days, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, he's given reason not to be fair, but... You know.
Yeah. If Andromeda is good, tell us in the comments. Maybe I'll check it out if it's available anywhere.
I'm looking at Eastman's IMDb just to see, is there anything interesting on there that other than what was mentioned? I mean, he did a couple episodes of Degrassi: The Next Generation, and the 90s Outer Limits, and a Stargate SG-1. But weirdly, he seems to have a tendency to do TV series that sound like something else. I mean, Poltergeist, obviously, that was based on movie series. There's FX, the TV series, which I'm like, what the channel? I don't. He did.
Well, there's an FX movie.
Oh, okay. He did an episode of Tech War. He did 3 episodes of RoboCop, the TV series, and then a TV series called Matrix, and then Dracula, the series, and then War of the Worlds, the TV series, and Friday the 13th, the TV series. So just all of these things, these TV series that either are based on or just sound like The Matrix just sounds like, The Matrix. This
right.
TV series I think came before that, but
so a bunch of those I've never heard of.
Yeah. Oh, Matrix is about Hitman Steven Matrix. He is shot and experiences the afterlife, gets a second chance by helping others.
Oh, wow. How many episodes did that run for?
It looks, given that the main character, Steven Matrix, is played by Nick Mancuso, and he appeared in 13 episodes, I'm guessing 13 episodes. Oh my gosh, wait. A person in this TV series, this 13-episode TV series Matrix, is Carrie-Anne Moss was in 13 episodes of Matrix.
What?
Also, Wallace Shawn was in one episode.
Inconceivable. Wow. I gotta get the yarn board out. That's crazy.
Yeah, right?
Okay, anyway, Sirach Lofton is not in this episode.
Nope.
I'm just gonna write that guy off. Who knows where he went. Morn isn't in the episode either. That's disappointing. We open on a bleak cityscape. It's grimy and industrial with crisscrossing catwalks and hover trains. Kind of like Tim Burton's Gotham City, but with hover trains.
It's not quite as like gothic as Tim Burton's Gotham, but yeah.
Yeah. We push in on a bar with an alien-looking neon sign.
Good old alien neon. That's a new periodic table element if I've ever heard one.
Inside, a ceiling fan spins slowly, an unmistakable sign that this place is a dive. And a hive of scum and villainy, it seems to be. As we see patrons playing cards and doing space drugs up their nose. Or maybe just taking asthma medication, who knows?
Could be both.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, mix in your drugs with your asthma medication. That's 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Right, yeah.
Sitting at the bar is someone we know. It's Chief O'Brien, but out of uniform. Or is it one of those duplicate Chief O'Briens? Or
yeah, I mean, they could be out there. Or his long-lost twin brother. This guy can be anybody.
All right. The like the failed other duplicant that those aliens made that one time.
Right.
Behind him, 3 men argue about what to order. They are Human Man, Fu Manchu Alien, and Other Alien. Human Man decides they should get some Nazala sandwiches, and Other Alien gets up to use a comm booth to make the order with a data port. Remember those?
From that one episode that was also related to the Orion Syndicate?
So we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
We're calling back to that. As the alien man adds the extra Willem sauce to the order and gets ready to bill to the municipal sanitation department, the chief sneakily points a device at him, and suddenly lightning bolts shoot out of the comm booth and start shocking the alien guy. O'Brien rushes to his aid. The alien is okay, but the data port thingy is fried.
Gotta be more careful with your data ports, man.
Mm-hmm. O'Brien mentions that he could probably fix it. For a price. The human man says, how about you do it for free? He's like, what? He's like, don't you know who I am? Fix it and polish it up, and maybe I'll set you up. O'Brien agrees.
I love the negotiating tactic of, yeah, I could pay you money, or like, you could do it for free.
Right. Don't you know who I am? Some guy.
Some guy in a bar. I'm very important.
Yep. The chief leaves and walks down a dark, steamy alley. He meets a mysterious person and reports that he's made contact with Bilby, and that Bilby wants him to fix the data port thing. It soon becomes clear that O'Brien is on some kind of deep cover mission. Starfleet Intelligence's deep cover operatives keep getting killed by the Orion Syndicate. The Syndicate has a mole in Starfleet. And who better to hunt a mole than the man who hunts voles, Chief O'Brien.
Yeah, I'm not sure they ever give a good explanation of why O'Brien is the one for this job, but
I think they went on the Starfleet like org chart and they typed in like experienced mole hunter, and then it was like, did you mean experienced vole hunter? And then Chief O'Brien pops up.
O'Brien better hope that this guy is not the informant, or he's in trouble.
Right. Back on Deep Space Nine, Odo and Quark show up at Ops at the same time to complain to Major Kira about maintenance issues. Quark has apparently started selling flaming quarks, and the fire suppression system keeps putting them out.
People really like flaming drinks, despite the fact that we've never seen them before and probably never will after.
Let's all go to flaming quarks. Let's all go to flaming quarks.
Doesn't quite work.
I
just like that it was like, how are we going to get Quark in this episode? I know, he'll be in Ops for some reason. As we've established, he can just wander into Ops whenever he feels like it.
Well, that's what this whole scene is how are we going to get all the regular main characters into this episode?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then, keeping up with that theme, Dr. Bashir shows up reporting an issue in sickbay, and then Worf and Dax arrive in a broken turbo lift. Worf wonders how come the chief's staff can't keep things working while he's gone. Good question,
Excellent
Worf.
question. Yep.
Good question. One that we've asked many times on this podcast.
Yep. Worf knows.
Right. Does Worf still live on the Defiant, or did he move in with Dax?
I assume that he moved in with Dax because she couldn't really move in with him very well in the bunks on the Defiant.
True, yeah. He lives in a bunk bedroom,
Yeah,
right? So
that doesn't seem like her jam. So probably he lives with her now.
that has nothing to do with this episode. I just suddenly wondered.
Oh yeah, they totally, like, Kira brought Mirror Barile to dinner in their quarters or whatever, remember? Because, like, Worf's trophy was in the background and stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess, yeah. Worf had moved in some of his stuff, so yeah, okay. Distracting thought over. Bashir goes into Sisko's office to ask when the chief is getting back. Sisko says he can't divulge any information about the chief's assignment, and calls out Dr. Bashir for just being worried about his friend. Wait, should I be worried? Says Bashir. Is he doing something dangerous? I assumed he was off repairing some transporters or something.
I hope they didn't tell Sisko what, O'Brien was going to be doing, because maybe Sisko's the mole. You don't know.
True. That's a good point. It's like, yeah, we need to take this guy. We're pretty sure this guy is not the mole, but maybe they like ran like some kind of statistical analysis, and it's like the person least likely to be the mole, and they're like, okay, you're on the mole hunt.
It's almost certainly not Chief O'Brien. Might be Captain Picard. Probably is Riker, but definitely not Chief O'Brien. So that's good. Also, I want to note that Sarah Clofton, not in this episode. However, the original pitch for this episode was a comedy story starring Jake. So, in Philip Kim's original pitch, Jake saves the life of a girl who turns out to be the Orion Syndicate leader's daughter. And due to this happening, Jake is befriended by a number of high-ranking Syndicate members. At first, he loves it, with his new friends able to get him anything he wants whenever he wants. However, Jake and Nog have a small argument on the promenade, and the next day, Jake discovers Nog in the infirmary after having suffered a nasty beating. So
I thought you were going to say, like, he discovers Nog dead or something.
That would have been a better... Yeah, it's like, we took care of your problem for you. Wait, what? And, like, Nog is, like, hanging from the promenade dead. That would be dark for a comedy episode. So, at this point, Jake realizes that things have gotten out of control, and he goes to his dad for help. However, the comedic element of the story comes from the fact that while Jake is trying to extricate himself from the Syndicate, Quark is trying to work his way into the Syndicate, so he decides to become Jake's new best friend.
Huh. Yeah, that wouldn't really fit with the current state of Quark, would it?
No, probably not. Ultimately, however, it turns out the whole situation with the daughter had been a setup by a member of the organization trying to usurp power for himself.
Huh.
So there you go.
Right.
That was the original story. Maybe they just changed it because Sarah Clofton wasn't available.
Could be. I just like to imagine like Ira Stephen Bear, someone going like, okay, I like Orion Syndicate. The rest, let's work on it. I know Orion O'Brien. Huh?
This is, I think, the third episode. Oh, hold on. It's actually a note in here. The Syndicate was previously mentioned in The Ascent, where they planted a bomb on the shuttle that Quark and Odo were on. And then A Simple Investigation, where Orissa was an undercover agent infiltrating them. So this is the third mention of the Orion Syndicate. We saw some of their people go after her in that episode. We've seen some of their people here. We've yet to see a single Orion in the Orion Syndicate, which I feel like is really strange.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of Orions in the Orion Syndicate these days, I guess.
There's an episode of Lower Decks which has an Orion main character on it, where they go to her home planet and like she lives in like this giant compound with a big mansion and stuff. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you rich?" And she's like, Oh, no. We're hardly the fourth largest family in the syndicate. So they're in there somewhere. Maybe they're just all at the top. The Orions don't do any of the like risky stuff themselves. They contract that out to stupid humans. And I think Fu Manchu alien and Ramus and the prostitute in this episode are all Farian, which makes sense because we are on Farius Prime.
Right.
So I guess like there's a lot of Farians involved.
Yeah, makes sense.
Farius Prime mentioned in the Maquis Part 1.
Oh, wow.
Random.
They're bringing stuff back this episode,
I guess.
So O'Brien returns the data port gizmo to the three dudes at the bar, where they just apparently always hang out. He's fixed it up real good, no feedback even. Bilby is impressed. He takes O'Brien out for a walk, which ends at his tiny little apartment. He pulls out a disruptor rifle and the chief acts worried, but it's okay. He just needs him to fix some broken Klingon disruptors he bought for his boss.
But I always pull out the weapon, like, threateningly when I'm asking somebody for a favor.
A thing we will notice about Bilby pretty soon is he is not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
No, I mean, you're like, man, you're some important dude with the Orion Syndicate. Why do you have such a small, crappy apartment? And you think, oh, it's because he sends all his money home to his family, which is what he says. But as we move forward, I think he's just not very good at what he does.
Right. There's a scene, I forget if it's this scene, where he's just talking about, like, he looked at O'Brien and he sized him up as, like, you know, a lonely sad sack with no friends or something. And I was like, are you describing O'Brien? Or
maybe O'Brien's just that good an actor, you know?
Or maybe he's just that bad a people reader.
It wasn't smart to take delivery of the Klingon disruptors without making sure that they worked. I will say that. So,
yeah, it's some pretty basic stuff.
It's like in Fifth Element when he brings out the guns for the what are those guys called? The warrior dudes.
Oh, the Mangalores?
Yeah, the Mangalores, and it's like a real killer would have asked about the little red button on the bottom of the gun.
Or just anybody who sees a little glowing red button and is like, wait, what does that do?
Yeah, right?
So you are merchants after all.
One for the course.
Give him one crate for the course. This let's just reenact that whole movie. Let's forget discussing this episode.
I mean, it might be worth doing. Honestly, like, just any Gary Oldman, like, he's so good at getting into these roles.
Right. Where was I? Mole and Starfleet. Okay. Yeah, so he needs the chief to fix these disruptors. The chief examines the rifle and quickly diagnoses the issue as a burned-out induction coil. Bilby asks if he can fix it. At this point, a non-spy would say something like, "Sure, are you going to pay me this time?" But O'Brien is just like, "What do you need the disruptor rifles for?" And he says, "I don't know, Ramus wants them, and when Ramus asks you something, you do it." So I don't know about you, but this mobster named Ramus just was making me think of Remus from Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, no, that's interesting. No, I'm constantly annoyed, and maybe it's just because I have the subtitles on, but every time I see the name Ramus, I swap the I and the M, and I think it should be Ramius, and it bothers me every time.
Nice. Yeah, he's gonna steal a submarine and
oh yeah, man. There's a deep cut. Sean Connery it up.
It's not that deep. That's a pretty classic movie.
Okay. And novel, to be fair.
Who cares about novels? No. I was just thinking of it's like, wait, I'm confused. Aren't you Remus? Anyway. Because that guy, and I am aware that George Remus was a real life person. Do put comments, whatever.
I think the first person I think of when you say Remus is probably like that guy from Harry Potter. So.
Oh yeah, I've not read any Harry Potter, so I've seen maybe the movies each one time. So Bilby offers the chief some cake that his wife made, or Rice Krispies treats, whatever that is.
Yeah, I'm like, why is it tiny squares of cake? It looks like what's the thing that the kid eats in Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe that the like?
Oh, Turkish Delight.
Yeah, I was like, are you sure it's not like Turkish Delight?
Isn't Turkish Delight like red or orange or something?
This is a fair question. Yes, when I Google it, it does often appear to be like red or pink.
Okay.
But sometimes it's other colors. Here's like a green and white one.
Isn't there a thing that like British people call Turkish Delight, and there's a different thing that Americans call Turkish Delight or something like that?
That may be accurate. Things? I don't think I've ever eaten any Turkish Delight from any country, so I don't know.
Right. So Bilby asks the chief if he has any family, and Miles is like, well, I did, but I think the writers got kind of tired of them, so they haven't been around much lately.
It's so true.
Bilby explains that he sends all the money he makes to his wife after he pays his fare to Ramus. Ramus is above him in the organization. You know what organization I mean, right? Well, I have a feeling it ain't the Girl Scouts. Would have been a cool line right there.
You think they're still Girl Scouts? Do they still sell cookies? Because
that's what I got to meet my cookie quota, give my cookie fare to Ramus. Anyway, fix these disruptors and maybe you can get in on some of these opportunities with the organization. I'm still not paying you, though. And Bilby offers Miles some more cake, but Miles would rather incur the wrath of this gangster than have another bite of that horrible cake.
That's how bad it is.
Reluctantly, he admits that the cake is a little dry. Bilby is impressed with his honesty. Bilby, as I have alluded to, is not very smart. The chief heads back to the dark alley to talk to his contact. The man gives him some Klingon disruptor induction coils he got from the Klingon ambassador. How ironic that the ambassador provided the very coils that would be used to kill him. O'Brien asks if he can call his wife, and the man is like, no, this isn't sleepaway camp. It's a super dangerous top secret mission to spy on some people who like to kill spies. O'Brien's like, okay, fair enough. Good point.
True. I mean, you can at least send a message for him. Be like, yeah, we'll tell your wife that you're not dead.
He's still fixing those transporters. Don't worry about it. O'Brien fixes the disruptors and delivers them to Bilby and company. Fu Manchu is suspicious and wants to know where the replacement parts came from. O'Brien tries to deflect, but Bilby presses him, so he makes up a cock and bull about stealing them and not wanting to tell Bilby so he wouldn't be implicated.
Yeah, no one asks, like, how did you know some random warehouse had Klingon disruptor, like, parts, but whatever.
Yeah, and Bilby should say, wait, that makes absolutely no sense, but instead he's so impressed he buys the chief a snazzy new suit.
I mean, that probably cost some money. Maybe the amount he would have been paid for all that work he did, so.
True. Yeah, the suit's probably worth something, so. Okay, now here's an important tip. If you sell defective goods to a mobster, and then that mobster asks you to come meet him and his mob buddies at their mob hangout, don't go to that meeting.
Like, this guy is so confident when he walks in that he's just like, no, obviously it must have been your fault. I'm like, right. Really? This is the tack you're going to take here?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe he really believed the disruptors worked or something. I don't know. Also, is this the same kind of alien that tried to kill Quark that one time? Because he has that weird mouth thing going on.
Oh, interesting question. Let's see if it says anything about that here. So, this guy, Yint is his name. Sold Bilby defective Klingon disruptors, played by Brad Blaisdell. They somewhat resemble the Tac face with the top and back of a Rotsiv covering the rest of the head. Huh. Okay, so Tac is a Delta Quadrant species, and Rotsiv is another Delta Quadrant? No, actually, this appears to be a like background alien that shows up in lots of random places.
Huh.
So, no indication that it's
just some aliens just have that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a common evolutionary thing. The big like fin that goes all the way down the middle of your face for some reason.
Yeah, to have a big thing that blocks your mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, this guy, what's his name?
Yint. Apparently, his name's only provided in the credits. So.
Okay. So yeah, he goes to that meeting with predictable results. He is gunned down by what's his face, Bilby or whatever.
Bilby? Yeah.
And Bilby has a little bit of fun with him. O'Brien is shocked at the realization that gangsters kill people.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Afterwards, Bilby has O'Brien over for some drinks, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, apropos of nothing, did you know the Syndicate has a mole in Starfleet?" The chief is like, "Wow, is this really this easy?"
Right? Man, he just brought up the exact thing that I want to know about, and then all I have to do is ask one or two slightly prying questions, and then he's like, "Why do you care so much?" He's like, "Well, I was just curious." Oh, okay, then.
Right. Yeah, Bilby says, "Oh, can you remind me to pick up a birthday present for my daughter tomorrow?" And Miles is like, "Yeah, whatever, let's go back to the mole in Starfleet. That sounds interesting." He's like, "Why are you so interested in our mole?" He's like, "Well, aren't you worried he's a double agent?" And then he's like, "Why would a double agent give us the names of Starfleet's undercover operatives?" It's like, well, so that you would have that exact reaction when I suggested it? You know, that's the kind of thing that spy agencies do, don't you? I mean, haven't you ever read The Spy Who Came In From the Cold?
I don't know. Bilby may not be a big reader for pleasure.
True. There's a movie, too, I think. Bilby says, "Well, this guy was in charge of the Risa weather system. He got fired after some guys hacked the system and made it rain, so now I guess he's in charge of safeguarding the Starfleet intelligence knock list."
Yeah, it's really just a straight line when you think about it.
Right.
It is funny that it's like about a year ago, Ramus met him on Risa when he was in charge of the weather system, and I was just like, about a year ago is when Worf and Dax and them were there. Like, was Ramus vacationing there when it started raining and stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I think this guy's and Worf's and Dax's fates are intertwined.
I like to imagine, like, after all this stuff has gone wrong and, like, Worf and Dax and them leave, like, the guy who's in charge of the weather system, his boss shows up and he's just, like, yelling at him and, like, cursing him out for what a crappy job he's done. And Ramus is just relaxing in a lawn chair, like, a few feet away, and after this guy's done being chewed out, he's all pissed off, and Ramus is like, "Man, that's Starfleet, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could get back at them?"
So yeah, then Bilby gets a phone call. Ramus wants to meet. The whole gang goes to the bar where 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 people beam in. One of them, we soon learn, is Ramus.
With what is apparently... There's a brand new transporter effect used for this scene that, as far as I know, may never be used again, but it's different from all the other transporter effects.
I noticed the sound sounded different than usual. I mean, don't they just usually, like, cut and then have people walk into frame and then do some glittery on top of them or whatever?
Yeah, I assume it's a different style of glittery, because it's all, like, Federation transporters look different from Dominion or Cardassian or whatever transporters. So.
Yeah. The nice gold swirly Cardassian ones.
Mm.
The Klingons have red ones, I think.
I like the Borg ones.
So, one of these 3 people that we saw beam in is Ramus. And he has a friend that he wants Bilby to meet. And he gets out of the way, and there's a 4th guy. It's a Vorta.
It's the same Vorta from the ship, or I mean the one little ship or whatever.
It's that same Vorta who tried to take over the Defiant with those incredibly inept Alpha Quadrant Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, this guy is the best at all sorts of plans, so
yeah,
this is bound to go well.
Now he's on another incredibly poorly thought out mission. Completely unnecessarily and at great risk, he apparently insists on meeting the hired guns for this project of his.
It does seem unnecessary.
But first, Ramus sees the chief and is like, "Wait, who's that?" And then Bilby is like, "Oh, don't worry about him. I witness for him," which, as it turns out, is a really big deal.
He didn't say that. He's just like, I know him. He's a guy that I know. And Ramus is like, "Well, I don't know him." And Billy's like, "No, it's fine. I know him." And Ramus is like, "Oh, okay."
It's like, "You witness for him?" So, whoa, no, I didn't say that. Nope, no takesies backsies. So then the Vorta makes some vague allusion to an important upcoming assignment, and then he and Ramus leave.
Yeah, this really does seem like the most random, like, pointless visit. That
yeah.
If he hadn't made it, then, like, their mission would have been a complete success because O'Brien would leave.
Right. It seems like it might be part of some sort of elaborate Dominion, like, counterintelligence operation or something, but no, I think this Vorta guy is just that dumb. Miles meets with his Starfleet intelligence contact and tells him about the Ryza weather guy. Then, almost as an afterthought, he says, "Oh, by the way, there was a Vorta at that last mobster meeting. I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in, but anyway, can I go home now?"
Yeah, I feel like he almost didn't mention it because he's like, I really want to go home and they're not going to let me.
Right.
And then he's like, but I have to, like, protect the Federation or whatever.
Right. Yeah, the guy is like, no, now you need to stay undercover and figure out what's going on with that.
There's always something.
Dang it. Why did I say that? Then we get a fun scene where the chief helps the dataport alien guy hack into the Bank of Boleus, which I guess disproves our earlier theory that the Bank of Boleus is just a Latinum storage warehouse.
Yeah.
So there clearly is a digital, like,
something.
Yeah, payment system in place. And we even see paper currency in this episode, so.
Not the most secure bank, though.
Right.
There's 2 banks in a row. They're not great.
Is Chief O'Brien just that good?
O'Brien seems to be having fun in this scene, and I'm like, he's probably always wondered if he could, like, do something like this. He never would, but he's like, I bet I could, like, break the encryption on that bank.
Yeah.
So I guess all this money's just gone forever after the end of the episode where the others die. Or maybe O'Brien, like, because presumably he gets a cut. So maybe he's just got, like, at least his quarter of it stored away somewhere for a rainy day.
Yeah, under the name of his alias or something.
Yeah. That, spies, that happens. They have their stuff that they put to the side. The governments know that.
Yeah.
So, somebody has to pay Quark for all the holodeck time that O'Brien and Bashir use. So here we go.
They're not paying me in Starfleet, so.
Yeah.
Then we get a really fun scene where Bilby tries to treat O'Brien to a call girl.
As you do with your friends.
Yeah.
You go over to the place where they live, and you walk in with a prostitute, and then you stand there and like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. How many times have I gone over to your house and there was just a sex worker sitting on your bed, and you were like, have at it? I mean, it's just a common thing.
Everyone does that, yeah.
Miles gets out of that by making up a fake brand new girlfriend just in the most unconvincing way possible. But Bilby says, well, I don't want to hurt her feelings, which I guess is code for, well, we still have to pay her.
I mean...
But the TV show doesn't have to pay her because she never speaks a line.
She's a pro, so I feel like...
This probably happens all the time.
Yeah. Feelings is not going to be the most important thing. As long as she gets paid, she's like, oh, I'm happy.
Then Bilby reiterates how much he trusts O'Brien. Those other guys who I've known and worked with for years, they don't trust you. But you fixed some stuff for me, and you lied to me to keep me from getting implicated, which makes sense somehow. So you are the person I trust the most. And it's just like, you're killing me here, Bilby. Like,
I also have to mention at this point that does it not feel jarring to you, the transition between these last few scenes? Like, we have a scene with, like, Bilby and O'Brien, at least I think that was the right before, and then we cut to, like, the guys robbing the Bank of Boleus together, and then we cut back to, like, Bilby and O'Brien alone with the prostitute, and I'm just like, it feels like that scene where they're robbing the bank could fit almost anywhere in the episode, and they're just like, yeah, throw it there, why not?
Well, I think the point of this scene and the bank robbing scene was to show that O'Brien is, like, getting in with these guys and really bonding with them and making, like, genuine friends with them or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, O'Brien goes back and meets with his contact and asks what will happen to Bilby if he's witnessed for him and he turns out to be a spy. And the Starfleet guy is like, what do you care? Didn't you watch Bilby shoot a guy in cold blood the other day?
And O'Brien's like, well, I think I kind of had it coming for selling bad merchandise.
True. Later, O'Brien and his new friends jovially head into their favorite bar, but find Ramus and the Vorta just sitting there. So I guess just no more sneaking around. The Vorta is just hanging out in the open now.
Yeah, but also, like, the bartender here is way more involved with the Syndicate than it ever appeared before, because he totally offs a guy for them in this scene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was worried about that bartender for a little bit, but then, yeah. But the Vorta says, he heard you can tell a traitor by looking him in the eyes. And there's a traitor here. So the Vorta looks everybody in the eyes, then points to O'Brien as the traitor. But then the bartender shoots Fu Manchu alien in the back. So I guess, I don't know, he was like, okay, the Vorta wants to do this thing where he looks in everybody's eyes and sees if he can tell the traitor. When he's done doing that, just shoot that guy in the back, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay.
So get rid of Bob. And the bartender's like, yeah, I never liked that guy anyway.
Right. And the Vorta's like, oh, he was going to be my second guess.
That is a fun Vorta, like, it feels like a very Vorta moment to me. Also, when the Vorta at the one point is like, oh, I now see how much the Dominion and the Orion Syndicate have in common. It's like, it is just so in Vorta character to be constantly trying to, like, diplomacy.
But yeah, so the dead guy, I guess, wasn't paying his fare. Good thing Bilby never witnessed for him. I guess I should have demanded that before I let him in all our secret crime meetings.
Yeah, I wonder how, like, did somebody else witness for this guy? Are they killing him separately? Or, like, how'd this guy get into the organization?
Right. Do you need somebody to witness for you? I mean, could it have been like, who's that guy? He's like, oh, he's cool. He's like, oh, you witnessed for him? He's like, no, but I mean, he's cool. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, I mean, how did he end up under Bilby, specifically, if Bilby didn't, like... Because Bilby doesn't seem to particularly trust either, like, Krull or Flip, whatever their names are. And so I'm like, I don't feel like he got these guys and brought them in, but maybe, I don't know.
Anyway, on to the next order of business. The Vorta wants Bilby and gang to take those disruptor rifles and use them to assassinate the Klingon ambassador. Why, says O'Brien. Oh, says the Vorta, what a perfectly reasonable question, and explains that the ambassador was an outspoken critic of the alliance with the Federation, so killing him would cast suspicion on Gowron and make the ambassador a martyr. Oh, and if you get captured, don't tell them about the Vorta guy.
Yeah, no, don't. Very important.
It's like, wait, so you want me to guard that secret with my life when you could have just as easily never introduced him to us?
Yes. Is that a problem?
Later, O'Brien meets with his contact who is like, how is Bilby going to get past security? Oh, he didn't know, so I figured out a way for him, says O'Brien. And the guy's like, well, why the hell did you do that? Anyway, easy peasy, we just warn the Klingons the attack is coming and then call it a day.
Well, couldn't we arrest Bilby and try to flip him, as was supposedly the plan before? And, you know, and then that way we also stop the assassination of the Klingon ambassador? And
I think this guy is just, he's tired of this whole operation. Yeah. He's like, we found the mole, whatever.
Like, we found the mole, these guys are gonna die. That ties up all of our loose ends, really, so...
Right. Never mind the fact that Ramus and the Vorta are still out there doing Orion Dominion team-up schemes.
Yeah, they should do something about that, probably.
So O'Brien is like, wait, so you're just going to throw Bilby to the wolves? And the guy's like, you mean the guy who without hesitation took on the assignment to murder a guy for money? Yeah, things might not turn out so great for him. So O'Brien punches out Starfleet intelligence guy and runs off to warn Bilby. He finds Bilby in his apartment, and Bilby is like, oh hey, I was just on my way out to my murder for hire assignment.
Yep.
It's a good thing I have such a low regard for the sanctity of life. It's such a great way to make money.
I'm honestly not sure that he's actually getting paid for this. Like, this seems like just like, in addition to the work that makes money for the Syndicate, we also want you to do this.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the Syndicate is just like, do this and maybe more opportunities will come your way later.
Yeah.
It's like, well, will any of these opportunities ever pay? Or
it's a pyramid scheme's what it is.
Right. He's like, you make money when you recruit other people to join our organization. That's the only way you get paid.
They pay their fare up to you, and that's how you make your money. Yeah, see?
Well, look at this chart. Okay, so they pay their fare. You keep 25% of their fare, plus 10% of the fare of any people they recruit, plus 5% of anybody on lower levels than them. It's like, oh. So if you look at this example here, anyway. So yeah, O'Brien is like, no, don't go, it's a setup. And he tries making up a story about someone tracing him, but Bilby doesn't buy it, so the chief has to come clean and say he works for Starfleet. After a few rounds of, nuh-uh, no you don't, and no I really do, Bilby is like, well that's not good, I witnessed for you.
Yep.
O'Brien tries to comfort him by telling him he wasn't here for Bilby, he just wanted to know who the Starfleet mole was.
He's like, oh, I'm not even important enough to be the target.
Bilby is not comforted by that.
Nope.
It just makes him realize how unimportant he is and how pointless his death is going to be.
Very pointless is the answer.
He says the smart thing to do would be to kill O'Brien, but as we've learned this episode, he's not very smart.
He really probably should have just killed O'Brien, just like...
Yeah. Begged for mercy. Yeah, he's like, kill O'Brien, go back to Ramus, be like, okay, look, I messed up big time, I know I witnessed for this guy, but he's a big dummy. He came and he confessed the whole thing to me. The whole thing's a setup. We got to bail on this operation.
Yep.
If you don't kill me, at least, or if you don't spare me, at least don't touch my family. He's like, oh, I respect that you didn't go through with this bogus mission hoping to, divert suspicion away from yourself. We will kill you, but spare your family.
Or what he could have done is said, okay, Starfleet will hide my family, and then we'll leave. But I guess he was like, you can't hide from the Syndicate. Didn't you hear that they blew up a runabout one time with two non-Starfleet guys on it?
Right. Yeah. In the real world, he would be like, well, I am ready to flip and name names immediately.
Yep.
Get my family into witness protection program.
So the whole episode is really built on this relationship between these two guys, right? Apparently, the original person who was cast for the role of Bilby was a very different guy named Charles Hallahan, who he's been in a lot of random stuff. You may know him from The Thing, where he plays Norris. But he's in a bunch of random stuff here. I'll share this picture of him, which I think will get across kind of what they were going for.
I'm like, is it Wilford Brimley?
No, not Wilford Brimley. This is the guy.
Wilford Brimley would have been a great choice.
So, they got this guy.
Huh.
And
I do not remember that guy from The Thing.
Nick Tate, who ends up playing Bilby, also tried out for the role, and he lost it to Charles Hallahan. But Charles Hallahan passes away just before principal photography begins. And so they go and they get Nick Tate. It says, however, despite Tate's excellent performance, the loss of Hallahan was something which Ira Stephen Bear feels hurt the episode. He says, we wanted to put Colm Meaney against another actor and just let them hold the screen for 42 minutes, and within this science fiction setting, make you care about the humanity of these people. That was the intent. It was a fragile thing. The episode's success was totally dependent on the relationship. If the relationship sinks, the whole episode sinks. If the relationship is okay, the episode's okay. And I think that's what we had. We had okay.
Yeah.
Because Bear says that what they were going for with Hallahan in this role, they felt that he actually looked kind of like Colm Meaney, same build, same height, same hair color, and they were trying to make this kind of a father-son thing between him and O'Brien. But after losing Hallahan, they felt like it came off as more of just a friendship, and you lost the father-son dynamic that they kind of wanted to get. And so he feels like without that emotional core in that relationship that it wasn't quite what it could have been. And he says, I still have trouble watching the show because I always see Charlie in it. As a character, O'Brien is so genuine and so trustworthy, there's no guile in him. And for me, Charlie was the perfect guy to play Bilby because he had what O'Brien has. It would have been reflections of two guys who are a lot alike, and Charlie would have broken your heart.
Oh.
So I guess burn Nick Tate. Ira Stephen Bear says that you ruined everything.
Yeah, I could never quite tell what he was going for. I felt sometimes he was trying to do a Robert De Niro thing, but then he panicked and aborted it. But So yeah, finishing up this episode. So Bilby reasons he has to go through with the assignment or the syndicate will kill his family. He just asked the chief to take care of his cat. He asked O'Brien if he has any family of his own, and O'Brien says yes, and Bilby says good, family's the most important thing. Back on the station, O'Brien tells the story to Bashir while still wearing his gangster suit, so he couldn't even change his clothes. I gotta tell you this fucked up thing that happened to me. Bashir comforts him, saying at least Starfleet intelligence guy didn't put the punching you out part in his report, so...
Everything's okay.
Right, I guess he was too embarrassed by that or something.
He probably should be, quite honestly.
Bashir leaves, and Bilby's cat comes and jumps up in O'Brien's lap. And he says, "You, new human, give me food now." The end.
And I'm sure that we'll see this cat many more times.
I'm sure the cat isn't going right out the airlock or whatever.
It's like, hey, Worf, Jadzia, do you need a present? Late wedding gift? Here you go. So there's this isn't a heavy notes episode, but there's a couple more about like reactions to the show, basically. And so Renee Ashvaria, a little disappointed with how the show turned out, says, "I'm not sure we found a level to this that made it truly an O'Brien show, or even truly a Deep Space Nine show. The story's a little familiar. Every television detective series has a story about the crime fighter going undercover, getting involved, and coming to respect the code of the bad guy. So it wasn't a resounding success for me." Colomini says, "It was a good show, but not a big acting challenge for me the way Hard Time was. Honor Among Thieves was more low-key, more subtle, but it was nevertheless interesting for me to play. I thought Nick did a wonderful job as Bilby, and I enjoyed working with him a great deal. It's fun to do those shows where it's just two guys playing out interesting, well-written scenes."
Sure.
Then you got Nick Tate, who played Bilby, just talking about how much he enjoyed being on Star Trek. He's like, I've not seen a lot of Deep Space Nine, but I do know the show tends to be very dark and somber with lots of background tension. Well, this episode has a great deal of tension. It's a very aggressive show. The Star Trek Deep Space Nine experience was very intense." And he mentions that, like, he didn't really, obviously Colomini was the only one of the regular cast that he worked with, but he did get to meet them all in the makeup van one day, and they shook hands.
Oh, nice.
So, there you go.
So, you're the guy who is replacing that guy we wanted who died, huh? Welcome to Deep Space Nine.
I feel like Ira Stephen Bear probably would have said it that way, but...
Right.
And he's like, I haven't seen you in a movie on TV recently. And he's like, I was in The Thing. And he's like, well, I didn't see that lately.
Wait, was that guy in The Thing?
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. It was the other guy in The Thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, who... now I got to see what Nick Tate's been in. Was he in a movie that Ira Stephen Bear would have seen on TV? He's an Australian actor. Didn't actually
interesting.
realize that. Best known for Space 1999 as Alan Carter. One episode of The Blacklist, one episode of Lost. When your best known fors are one episodes, that's not...
Who is he on Lost?
He plays Ray Mullen in the episode Tabula Rasa, season 1, episode 3.
Ray Mullen.
That's
the first. Oh, he's the one-armed Australian guy who turns in Kate for the reward money.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And now that you say that, I can totally see it.
A farmer in Australia for whom Kate worked prior to the crash of Oceanic. Okay.
Yeah.
Kate told the marshal she wanted to make sure the reward went to Ray since he had a hell of a mortgage. Good for you, Ray. You got that. Okay, let's see what else. He was in the video game Mad Max. He played a taxi driver in the movie The Great Gatsby. Bunch of one episodes of this and that. Nothing. It sounds like the space. 1899 or 19, whatever. The space show was the big one.
Space 1899.
Well, no, apparently there's a video that he was in called Space 1899. So.
Oh wow. All right.
What would Jerry Anderson's sci-fi series Space 1999 be like if it was made like a silent movie? Is the summary of this 4-minute video.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Escape from Monkey Island, the video game. That's always good. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, read-along storybook and CD, where he plays Emperor Palpatine and Darth Sidious.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, if you ever listen to the read-along, or read along with the read-along CD, you can't just listen to it, you have to read along.
I mean, those are the same guy, but...
Well, yeah. 30 episodes of Sons and Daughters as James Hamilton.
Like, is Emperor Palpatine still pretending not to be Darth Sidious?
It seems unlikely, right?
But
like,
The Empire Strikes Back.
Probably not. Oh, wow. 23 episodes of Dynasty. So, he's been around.
Sure.
Anyway.
He's a working actor.
Yeah. And the last note in here is the AV Club gave the episode a B, saying, events are so detached from the parts of the show we really care about that the whole thing comes off like an odd, unnecessary detour. When it comes to fiction, steal if you need to. But if you steal, you better make sure to make what you take your own.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
So, review time.
What did you think of Space 1990? Oh, wait, no.
No, Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah.
So, I remember... This is an interesting episode because I remember exactly what my reaction was the first time I watched this episode.
Okay.
When it first aired. And I remember it starts with a shot of a ceiling fan. And I was like, there's no ceiling fans in Star Trek. And the whole rest of the episode, I was just against the whole time. This time, I think it has some things I like. I mainly like seeing this like cyberpunk underbelly of the Star Trek universe that has been hinted at, like especially in that Odo's girlfriend episode.
It's true. I mean, they went hard on it in that Picard episode, or that in season 2 or 3 of Picard, where she's on that cyberpunk planet and Worf shows up and stuff. So
Metalis 3 or whatever.
Yeah, like they went
4.
That exact aesthetic, and they went hard in that in that Picard.
So I like exploring that. It's just that I think I have to agree with that AV Club interview, which is this is something we've seen a million times where somebody goes undercover and they get in too deep with the people they're supposed to be spying on or whatever. And then they start having conflicted loyalties. And I'm just not quite sure what unique take we're supposed to be having on this episode, or how Chief O'Brien in particular is supposed to resonate with that concept, or like, you know, what we're supposed to learn about his character through it or whatever. So I think overall it doesn't really work that much for me. So in the end, I think I have to put it just a little bit under the line and give it a lieutenant.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
So yeah, what do you think?
So it's definitely, we're not telling an original story here. They don't even really add any interesting twists to it to like give it a Star Trek like tilt. It like you could almost drop this into anything and tell the exact same story. If maybe okay, so there's this criminal element that we know about in the Orion Syndicate, and they operate at least partially within the Federation. They're doing crime within the Federation at various times. They're robbing the Bank of Boleus in this episode.
Right.
Having that is interesting. And it's also a very interesting idea that makes complete sense that the Dominion would try to co-opt that existing infrastructure to do the stuff that they want to do, right?
Sure, yeah.
Honestly, not necessary for the plan they pull off here. You could easily send a founder to be a Klingon and shoot the guy with a Klingon disruptor. Like, you could send a founder disguised as Gowron to do it. Like, it wouldn't
right.
be... So, the specific plan they come up with, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why that's the...
Yeah.
But...
Well, I mean, we could have a limited number of founders in the Alpha Quadrant right now, so...
I don't think it's the best plan. I really like the idea of... among all of the different stuff the Dominion is doing, that they've recruited like this criminal organization to be another arm. That's really interesting to me, and I think that if we had made use of that moving forward, that could have been really cool. The problem is, spoiler, we don't do that. We never come back to it. So that's like the one string that I felt like has possibilities to it and is an interesting Deep Space Nine thing that we do with this episode, and it just never goes anywhere. So that bothers me a little bit. All that said, I really enjoy the episode. This is one that I would watch repeatedly because I have fun with what O'Brien gets to do here.
Mm.
So And I just like the little story that we tell. And the characters in it, like Kroll and Flith, they're these dumb characters who never even really get any development aside from that guy dies and he was doing some work on the side. Like, that's not even really development. But, like, oh, you're saying that the criminal did something dishonest? Oh my gosh. So, but I have fun with it. I enjoy this episode. For all of its flaws, I like it. And so for me, that puts it, I'll probably put it the other side of the line and make it a lieutenant commander.
All right. Yeah, some things I kind of forgot to mention that I did like was whenever you have one of these like character focused stories, just always put Chief O'Brien in there. Colin Meaney will like he'll run with it.
He delivers every time.
Yeah. And I do kind of like they built up a cool sense of atmosphere with like the one matte painting they cut to 1,000,000 times, but
it's true, we do see it a lot.
It worked in like, the dark steamy alleys and the kind of like all the frosted windows, and there's always like lightning going on in the background and stuff. So I thought that they did kind of a good job setting the mood with that stuff. But I think just my main complaint with the episode is just kind of like conceptual and who cares. And now that you've mentioned that Jake accidentally saving a mob boss's daughter story or whatever, I don't know. That sounds kind of interesting. A story that, and like Quark is trying to get in with the Orion Syndicate. That's a story that kind of like plays with our characters, as our characters. Yeah. It's not, because really you could have put like Dr. Bashir in this episode. You could have put Odo in this episode. Maybe not Odo, but
probably not.
Yeah, Odo. Yeah, Odo would not have like felt 1 ounce of sympathy for this guy ever. But
almost anyone else from the show, yeah, you could have. I mean, if you're going to do the story of he knows how to fix things and he's a tinkerer, then it makes sense that it's O'Brien.
Right.
But yeah, you could change that slightly and do the same story with almost anyone else.
Or like Rom, it's like bring back that guy who was in Starfleet Intelligence for like 5 minutes.
Much easier to believe that a Ferengi would be shady than
True.
O'Brien. Although Rom is kind of an idiot, so I wouldn't trust him with the mission.
The more I think about it, the more I want to see this episode with Rom. Oh well. So, what do you think of the title, Honor Among Thieves?
I mean, I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember what episode you're talking about when you say that. Like, I don't think that there's anyone that features like thieves so prominently.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe fairly clever. Like, I think this is a solid episode title.
Yeah. Not super clever, but memorable, relevant.
Yeah.
Solid title. So yeah, we should wrap the review up there unless you have any other stuff to bring up.
I'm good.
So yeah. That was our discussion of Honor Among Thieves. Thank you for listening. If you liked that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of The Storyteller. That was a good Chief O'Brien episode.
Was it?
It's been so long, I don't remember. Was that a good episode?
I mean, you could have gone for Hard Time or something, but...
yeah, I just... yeah, listen to the review for Hard Time also. I don't necessarily watch the episode, but yeah, you can find those reviews wherever you're listening to this. All past reviews should be out there if you're listening in the future, and reviews that are the future of us but are the past of you, then they will also be out there. So the episode you are listening to right now does not determine your reality. You live in your own now. So think about that. Anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But remember, we witnessed for you.